Let's see. Here we go. Here we go. Yo, what's up? What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, car kings, fellow nerds, people who want to learn how to code? It's your boy Scott Leonard. I'm back at it again. This stream is supposed to start at 2 p.m. We're gonna start a little bit earlier today. Um, but we will kind of yap until 2 p.m. Just wait until people get in. People who want to learn how to code. If anybody is interested, I don't want anyone to miss out. So we're gonna wait until 2 p.m. to start. But I wanted to have like a little bit of an introduction, a little bit of a chill session before we start. So let's see how many people join this stream. I know it's not the most interesting, insane topic, but I know people always say they want to get to that next level. They want to escape the matrix. They want to be able to they want to be able to afford supercars, not be stuck in that holding pattern of a 9 to 5 that doesn't pay enough. So let's see how many people are really serious about it. Talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. Everybody says they want to make it, but do they really want to make it? That's the thing. So we'll see how many people join. How many people remember that there was a coding session today? How many people are interested in jumping in and watching? It's going to be a light session anyway. Nothing too crazy. Because I know that the first session was pretty light. We had our boy Slick over here. We went over some things. Today's going to be light as well. We're just going to go over basic operators. Basic operators. Let's see what else is in this. We're going to go over introduction to Swift playgrounds, constant variables, data types, operators, and control flow. So it's not going to be anything too insane. Nothing that's going to be too hard to digest if you're new to coding. Also, if you guys are new to coding and you're interested in learning, make sure you join the Discord, because we will have live sessions for people who need help in the Discord. So join the family. Join the family. Make sure you guys don't miss out. Sunday is the only day where we don't stream at noon, FYI. The mistake I made last week is I streamed at noon on Sunday, and we ended up streaming directly through this coding session. So we're actually one class behind. We're literally one class behind. That's why today I didn't stream, because I decided it would be best not to stream. We'll wait until this session. After this session, we'll probably have a normal reaction content session, but I didn't want to mess up again and run through this session again. So that's why we didn't stream earlier today. Well, we did stream earlier today, but not anything conventional. Okay. Like I said, we're just going to stay in here yapping a little bit. We have 10 more minutes until we begin the session. This is not going to be a long session. It's probably going to be 30 minutes to an hour at max. I just want to see how serious people are. I'm gauging the environment right now. See how serious you guys actually are. Because everybody says they want to escape. They want to make money. But do they really? Learn to code. I'm just adding the hashtags to the title of the stream. See if we can get more people attracted. Anybody in here? Whether people join this session or not, we will be having the session. It's gonna guide me on whether I should continue having these learning sessions or not. It's all fun and games when we're reacting to Neon, Fuzi, Hasanabi, Bradley Martin, Sneeko. But now it's time to learn. Time to get to that next level, guys. The fun and games for today. We'll take a little break and we'll actually try and learn something. Not every day can be fun and games. If you guys are joining the session, the book we're going to be using for this session is App Development with Swift, Apple Education. It's free on the Apple bookstore. So if you have a Mac, or if you have the Apple Book app on your iPhone, you can download this book for free. It's called Apple App Development with Swift, Apple Education. One of the best books you can use to learn how to code for Swift. A lot of people will spend enormous amount of money buying books from third parties, but it's always best. The smartest thing you can do is go to the source. Apple is the company that develops the tech stack we use to code for mobile development on iOS. So they're the best source of truth when it comes to learning how to code. The book is free. So I don't see the purpose in going out and buying a book about Swift from a third party when Apple already provides a book. This is the book I use to learn how to code, and it's the book that landed me a 6-figure job. So that's the reason why we're using this book, if anybody's wondering. If you do decide to join the Discord, we have a channel in the Discord called Welcome Learning to Code, where we'll be discussing all things code related moving forward. Hey, Downwind JC, thank you for joining the stream. Hope you're having a good day, bro. How's everything going? What are you getting into today? I'm just yapping, filling in the space until 2 p.m. At 2 p.m., we're going to start the session. At 2 p.m., we're going to start the nerd session, guys. The true nerd session. I might as well put the emoji in the description. Oh, Downward JC, you're a developer, right? The problem I have, Downward, is that I am a bad teacher. I'm like not good at teaching, so I'm just reading this book basically. I'm gonna try to go through the book, go through the steps, and go through the challenges together, or at least help people when we get to the challenges in the book. Help people if they get stuck. But I'm actually not the best teacher. Or at least I don't think I am. You guys will have to tell me, I guess. Got hair in my mouth. We got a cat. The cat sheds a lot. Holy shit. My desk is so unorganized right now, too. That shit drives me crazy. Whenever I'm trying to do something serious and I look around, the desk is all disorganized like it is right now. Shit drives me freaking crazy. Getting OCD over here. The other thing about courses, guys, is courses, learning how to code through courses is not always the best path. In my opinion, the best path is to come up with an idea for something that you want to create yourself and then start working on it. And as you get stuck, searching up the answers to the problems you're facing. If you learn how to code that way, I assure you that will be the most efficient way for you to become an expert programmer. That's one of the things I did. See, the whole thing with me is that I didn't start out trying to find a job as a software engineer. I started out with a problem I was trying to solve. Cat hair. I started out with a problem I was trying to solve, and then I had to find out how to progress through the development of the application that I was trying to make, and that led me to become a software engineer. Backstory is I was a graphic designer at a small company, and we had to keep inventory, and I didn't want to keep inventory manually, so I was going to make a Excel spreadsheet that did it for me, but I decided, nah, let me just do this so I can keep it on my phone, and in order to keep it on my phone, I needed to make an app. So I had to Google how to create a app for the iPhone, and then I ran into Swift, and then I was like, okay, well, how do I do that? So it said download Xcode. I started downloading Xcode, and then obviously I'm not familiar with an IDE, so I had to download documentation to be able to figure out how to use the IDE, and that led me to downloading this book, and going through the process of the book led me to completing my application, but also learning how to code in general. And after I learned how to code in general, I was like, well, what else can I do with this? I already finished the application I wanted. What else can I do with this? And that's what led me to go and Google for jobs. And then I saw that the salary for jobs, in fact, let's pull up the salary for jobs right now. You guys can see these salaries. And you'll see why I decided to quit my job and become a software engineer. iOS developer jobs. Let's just see Indeed. Let's go to Indeed. Let's see the payouts for these jobs. And then you guys will see the reason why. The reason why I decided I was no longer interested in being a graphic designer. I haven't been on this website in such a long time. I don't know how it even works. We got 2 more minutes before we need to start the session anyway. I guess these are the positions. I have not been on this website for forever. So iOS developer, this is in San Diego, California. Pay $100,000 to $150,000 a year. This one. Pay $130,000 to $150,000 a year. This one. This one's on the low side. $98,000 to $106,000 a year. Flutter Android. This one doesn't have the salary. Mobile app developer, iOS, Texas. This one also doesn't have the salary. This one's $20 to $70 an hour. I hate when they do the hourly rates. No salary here, but it's probably 6 figures as well. This is backend developer. Doesn't have the salary amount, but it's probably 6 figures. You're rarely going to find $60 to $62 an hour, which I think adds up to like $100K or something. You're never going to find a software engineering job at a real company, $65 to $75 an hour, that's not going to be paying you at least $150,000 to $200,000. Hey, 1P, thank you for joining. Hope you're having a good afternoon, bro. Hope you're having a good afternoon. Downwind JC, yeah. So that's basically what I was making when I was a graphic designer. When I was a graphic designer, I was making $28,000, $29,000 a year. And now I make like what? 9 times more than what I made before. So like, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, the crazy thing is, I'm going to keep it a buck with you guys. When you start making more money in life, there is the chance of you having, what is it called? Finance creep. Finance creep. I think that's what it's called. Where you start spending more until eventually you end up back at the situation where you're basically almost living paycheck to paycheck. I'm not living paycheck to paycheck yet, obviously. I do have a budget. I'm pretty good at keeping it. But it's a slippery slope and you can end up there. You could be making $300,000, $200,000 and still be struggling. So don't get too excited about the numbers, because remember that the more money you make, the more you're going to want to spend on crazy shit. And you're going to start doing dumb shit with your money. So look at this one. iOS application developer, healthcare software, Sunnyvale, California. Pay is $143,000 to $264,000 a year. And like I said, all of these jobs are going to be paying 6 figures. This one's low. This one they're trying to lowball you. This is Atlanta, Georgia. $70,000 to $92,000 a year starting. No salary. I hate when they don't have a salary. This is on Indeed though. To be honest, if you're looking for a job as an engineer, you're kind of crazy if you go on Indeed and look. Like, it's always better to just get a recruiter. Just get in contact with a recruiter. It's 2:01 right now. We're going to start in a second. How many people? We have 5 people in here. But yeah, the thing is that the 30K, look, when I was making 30K a year, my goal, my dream was to make 50,000 a year. I said, man, if I make 50,000 a year, I'm going to be rich. Think about that. Think about that. And now I think back and I'm like, dude, when I pay all my bills at the end of the month, I spend all the money on my bills, pay the car, pay for the apartment we live in, pay for all the food, pay for electricity, water, all the utilities, all that shit. The amount of money I have left over is the amount of money I would have if I was making $50,000 a year. Is that not crazy? And I'm thinking to myself, if I made $50,000 a year, I'd probably die. I'd probably fucking die. I don't know how people can survive on that amount, but I get it. I get it. Because when you make less, you spend less. So iOS Safari app service software engineer, Cupertino, California. This is 143,000 to 264,000 a year. This one's crazy. This is low. This is way low. Seattle, Washington, 48,000 to 192,000 a year. This range is so big. You know why? Because companies like this, especially the companies that are on Indeed and on these like fucking websites where randos can apply, they are fishing for people on the low end. Like if they can get you for 48,000, they will. If they can trick you into working there for $48,000, they will. And there'll be guys in your team that are making like $200,000, and you'll be making $48,000 and doing the same job, and you won't know. So whenever you get these jobs, never let them lowball you. Never let them. They're looking for college students that don't know. There are 38 books in the series. Which one do I need to download first? The one I would download first is actually Pyro the Maniac. Are you in the Discord? If you're in the Discord, the book you need to download first, the link to the book is in the Discord. I'm going to copy it and paste it in the chat. It's this one I'm going to paste. It's this one. Oh, the link's not uploading. The link is not loading for you. Let me see if I can just copy it from here. Share book. I didn't realize there were that many with the same name. Why can't I not just copy the URL? Copy link. This is what I needed. Let me paste it in there one more time. Let me know if this link doesn't work. Let me know if that link doesn't work. It depends, Juan. It depends. I think that you can hustle them into making you do it from work from home, to be honest. Most of them, because there's no point in coming into the office, except that sometimes these companies, it depends on the company, to be honest. If it's a bunch of young people, then they'll probably let you work from home. If they're old heads, then they might be hesitant. They might be hesitant. But this was just, I don't know why it pulled up California. Let me see why. Maybe I put the wrong zip code up here. I didn't specify what state. So I put Orlando, Florida, iOS app developer. Let's see what the job market looks in Orlando. The company I work for is not based in Orlando. It's based in Cali. So Orlando, Florida, software engineer, mobile applications, still pretty good. 92 to 95,000. Senior. This one doesn't have the salary, but this one definitely probably is way more than that. It's a senior position. Damn, Orlando really doesn't have any. There's only 2. There's only 2 in Orlando. Like I said, the company I work for is not from the city I'm in, so let's try and get a job in California and then just try and work remote. It says this book is no longer available. Let me see if I can find. Let me see what happens when I click on it. That's weird. Let's go to the App Store and let's search route right here. Yeah, I have a whole bunch of them in my library too. That's another thing. It should probably be this one, I would think. When is this released? Xcode 13. But I feel like this is not the one with all the lessons in it. Give me a sec. Let me see what other ones they have in here. Because you're right, they do have 38 books in the series. I don't know why they've released so many goddamn books. Fundamentals, CS principles, data structure collections, development Swift explorations, development Swift fundamentals. I feel like it's this fundamentals book. Intro to app. No, it's this one. But this is the one we have right now that you said you can't access. Intro to app development with Swift. Apple Education is the one that I would recommend. Oh, there's a new one here. Maybe it's because there's a new book. Let's see what this one is about. Xcode 10. I don't think this is the one I want, though. Because I already have this book in my library, if you've noticed. I think this one here is just an explanation. It doesn't have any of the lessons in it. I could be wrong. Let me just download it and see. Because the one that I was recommending has actual lessons in it. Like, it has, like, homework and shit. And, like, questions at the end of every chapter. And I think this one might just be the one that just has straight, it's just code documentation. Let me just download it and see what it has. Either that or they just changed the name. This is Xcode 15. This is the latest Xcode. So maybe it does have everything in it. Let's see. I feel like I'm talking too fast. I feel like I'm pulling an XQC here. Let's see. Read. I could be wrong. It might have everything, but we'll see. Open. Yada, yada, yada. Could be wrong. Let's see. Let's see. Getting started with app development. We already went through all this in the other book. The terminal. It's talking about the IDE. Huh. I mean, it seems like it has the same stuff. Maybe this is just the latest version. I'll put this one in the chat too. Try this one. The one that you were able to download, Pyro, is it the one I just sent, or is it the other one that we were going to look at? Because I do like how the other one looks more, to be honest. This one looks too, I don't know, dry. But I guess it's the same. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the same information. It's just that I like how the format of the other one was a little bit more. The one we're looking at now. I guess the one that we had before is not available anymore. Let me paste a link to this one in the Discord as well. Kind of sucks because you see how this one's nice and it's like the format is different. This one is more straight to the point. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll read the introduction on in the other book, but we'll do the tasks from this book, since it seems like this is the one that this is the more up-to-date book. Lal says I'll be in here out cleaning the same time, but listening and watching. Okay, so the first link didn't work. How long did it take you to teach yourself? It took me 6 months, Juan. It took me 6 months, but the thing is, it was 6 intense months. Like, I'd go home from work and I would stay up until like 2 in the morning practicing. So, Unit 1, get started with app development, introduction to Swift and playgrounds. By the way, guys, I'm a shitty teacher. I'm just going to be reading this, to be honest. I'm going to be reading this and trying to explain the points as best as I can, or add additional information to each point as best as I can. So, welcome to app development with Swift. By learning the fundamentals of the Swift programming language, you'll be on a fast track to developing your own apps. This first unit introduces you to the fundamentals of Swift, building modern mobile apps, iOS, Xcode, and other tools in the Xcode development environment. You'll also learn a little bit about Interface Builder, a visual tool for crafting user interfaces. After completing this unit, you'll be fairly familiar with everything you need
everything you need to tackle your first app. So Swift lesson, it introduces you to Swift and playgrounds, constants, variables, and data types, operators, and control flow. And then the SDK lessons, it's Xcode, building, running, and debugging an app, documentation, and interface builder basics. What you'll build. Light is a simple full screen flashlight app where the user taps the screen to toggle its color between black and white. So in this lesson, you'll learn about the origin of Swift and some of its basic syntax. What you'll learn, why Swift is a great language to learn, how to use Xcode playgrounds to run Swift code. And then there's like vocabulary, obviously, console, open source, playgrounds, result sidebar. These are just parts of the IDE. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. It's the tool we use to write code. This is the tool, by the way, it's called Xcode. And this is called an Xcode playground. It's a simplified version of a code file, or I guess a source file. Pyros is great, outstanding. Dude, I don't know. I'm just like, I feel like I'm G1 right now. I think I need to slow the pace down a little bit too. I'm just reading a little bit too fast. A little history. At the Apple Worldwide Developer Conference in 2014, Apple introduced Swift as a modern language for writing apps for iOS and macOS. Just a back heads up, I don't write code for macOS. I know how to. Obviously, it's the same thing. I just don't find it as interesting. Like, I don't think I've ever written an application for macOS. Maybe in the beginning I tried writing one for something stupid I was working on, but most of the time everything is done for the mobile apps like the iPad and the phone. So Apple now has new platforms including watchOS and tvOS that also use Swift as the primary programming language. Since the 1990s, most developers have written applications for Apple platforms in Objective-C, a language built on top of the C programming language. Objective-C is a nightmare and it sucks. That's not in the book, but it is. It's a pain in the ass. DSC is Xcode plus SwiftUI hype. Yep. Linux. Yikes. No. Objective-C. At my job, we do use Objective-C sometimes. Part of the code base is written in Objective-C. It's really a pain in the ass to read, and it's really a pain in the ass to write. So we're trying to get away from it. I don't know why we still have this in our code base because, as you can see, it was developed in the 1990s. Swift came out in 2014. We're in 2025 right now, so there's really no reason for us to continue using this Objective-C, but we still have a lot of that in our code base at work. It's a pain in the ass. So just a heads up, if you guys do get a job as a software engineer writing Swift, you might encounter some situations where you do face some Objective-C, especially if it's an old company with the old code base, then you might run into some Objective-C. And it's not fun. It's really hard to read. It's kind of sloppy. There's like, everything is not in one file. There's like header files and there's header files and the implementation files. They're not in the same spot. It can be very confusing. But I don't want you guys to get scared, overwhelmed. Hopefully, if you do get a job as a software engineer writing Swift, you don't end up in a company where they're still using Objective-C. Anyways, Objective-C is more than 30 years old, and C is more than 40 years old. Both languages have served the software development community well. They won't be going away in the foreseeable future. C, I like C. C is pretty simple. Objective-C is not. There's these things called pointers, very confusing concept. However, Objective-C can be challenging to learn because technology has been advancing so fast in recent years. Apple saw the opportunity to create a modern language that was easier to learn and easier to read, write, and maintain. As you learn Swift, you may see the influences of its C and Objective-C heritage. A modern language. What's a modern language? It's one that's safe, fast, and expressive. As Apple was designing Swift, those three primary goals were at the core of every decision. As you learn programming concepts in Swift, you'll come to appreciate how each decision points to safety, speed, and clarity. Some of the features that make Swift a modern language include clean syntax, which makes code readable and easier to work with, optionals, a new way of expressing when a value may or may not exist, type inference, which speeds up development and allows the compiler to help identify common issues, type safety, which enforces code that's likely less like which enforces code which enforces code that's less likely to crash your program. So type safety, this is actually a really key feature of Swift and lots of modern languages. If any of you guys have ever tried to do like web development Java, you'll realize that Java is not a type safe language. Not Java, JavaScript is not a type safe language. And when you go back to debug your apps or your website, you might have crashes that you weren't able to find easily because it's not type safe. Basically, what type safe means is that every variable needs to be a certain type. Like if a variable is declared as an integer, it has to always be an integer. If it's a string, it will always be a string. There's no way for you to swap types as you go. And it's a core feature. It makes the debugging much, much easier. Automatic reference counting, ARC, for memory management, which automatically handles some of the deeper technical challenges of native programming. Tuples and multiple return values, which allow smaller units of code to be more generic, which helps developers write code that can be used in multiple scenarios. Fast and concise iteration over collections, making Swift a fast language. Structs that support methods, extensions, and protocols, which allow Swift to optimize for memory use, and speed, which provides flexibility for developers. Map, filter, reduce, and other functional programming patterns, which simplify code and streamline common actions that previously required multiple lines of code. So this is also really cool. When you get a job, they'll make you do like all these algorithms and data structures. And basically those data structures and algorithms that you're learning are to do these things. Map, which is just going through all of the items in a list of an array. Filter, which is filtering items from an array. And reduce, which is subtracting items from an array. In other programming languages, these functions need to be written out manually. But in Swift, they're literally just a keyword. So it saves a lot of time because you don't need to constantly write new algorithms. You can just use the algorithms that come built in with the language. I know you guys probably don't know what I'm talking about now, but you'll see when we get to this point where we're using these functions, you'll see what I mean. Powerful error handling, which helps the developers write fewer bugs and better handle scenarios that could cause apps to crash or perform unexpectedly. At the moment, you're probably not familiar with most of the concepts on the list. That's okay. For now, just realize that they make Swift a great language to use for building applications. As you progress through this course, you'll learn that what each of these features means and how it's relevant to writing safe, fast, and expressive code. A safe language. A number of features already mentioned make Swift a safe language by helping you write code that is less likely to crash your app. Computer programs are very literal, and so code written to handle one thing may not be capable of handling another. Type safety forces you to be explicit about the type of each object that you create, manipulate, and assign, and only lets you write code that the giving object can handle. This prevents you from writing code that may crash if it is not designed to work with the types of object you are referencing. Type inference similarly allows the compiler to infer the type of an object, thereby saving you time and again ensuring that the compiler can enforce proper rules regarding what operations, and functions can be performed with each type. Optionals are somewhat unique to Swift. Optionals are a really cool concept. So basically, just a little quick backstory here. Optionals, when you declared variables, in most programming languages, a variable has a value assigned to it when it is created, right? So let's say I create a variable, it's a number. It's going to have a number assigned to it when I make the variable, like a 1, a 0. If we don't want it to have any value, it's probably going to be 0. But in Swift, you can actually initialize the variable and not assign any value to it at all. And then when the compiler goes over the variable, instead of it crashing and say, oh, well, this is an empty variable and throwing an error, it will check to see if it was an optional. And if you created it as an optional, then it will just ignore it. So it's really cool. It's actually a really cool feature. I guess in the base language C, there's something similar with the pointers, but it's really confusing and extremely complicated. Anyways, optionals are somewhat unique to Swift and allow you to better express when a value may not exist. This helps you ensure that your code can handle both scenarios where values exist and scenarios where they do not. Swift also provides for sophisticated error handling, which as its name implies, allows you to write code that can handle errors gracefully and simply. The other thing about these optionals that's cool is that normally if you're writing something in like Java, you constantly have to be like assigning values to variables. When you start to use a variable, you need to assign it there, yada yada yada. With Swift, you can declare all your variables at the top of the file, and you don't need to worry about whether they have values or not. By the way, guys, am I going too fast? Let me know if I'm going too fast. Also, open source. In December 2015, Apple released the Swift language and supporting resources on GitHub as an open source project. Open source can mean a lot of things. The most important point to understand is that an open source language is developed in the open with community input and support. Everyone is welcome to contribute or simply to follow along. Open development means that Swift is evolving and improving. Over time, syntax may change and support will be added for more platforms, including Linux. Now that you've learned Swift, you can be confident that your knowledge will become more and more valuable as the language continues to improve and as adoption grows, both access across Apple platforms and beyond. For more information about how to follow along or participate in building Swift, please visit the project homepage at swift.org. This swift.org website, we use it a lot too. It has like a lot of documentation on it. Okay. So, let's see. Okay, so the first thing is, guys, I'm going to open a program. It's our IDE, Xcode. And you can download Xcode for free on the App Store. If you have an iPad, you can also download Xcode Playgrounds. The new iPads, the more powerful versions, they allow you to actually write code. So we're going to be using this program called Xcode. I'm just going to drop it in the chat. And this is where things get a little bit complicated because if you don't have a Mac or an iPad, then you'll have to download like a third-party program. And it will be a little bit different to follow along. I really can't guide you that well if you don't have a Mac, but the program is called, let's see what it's called, because I haven't used it in forever. If I even have it on this computer. Don't. Oh, I do. So if you don't have a Mac and you want to at least be able to write the code and test it out, you might have to go down a different path. There's this program called Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code that allows you to write code with in Swift. It's not going to have the debugger. It's going to look a lot different. So I'll open up this IDE. It's a different IDE, essentially. I think the iPad that allows coding is the iPad Pro. But if you're gonna buy a whole iPad, I would recommend just buying a Mac Mini because they're pretty cheap. I think you can get a Mac Mini for cheaper than an iPad. But yeah, this is the other program. It's called Visual Code. I don't know if I have any. I thought I had recent. Yeah. And it's going to be different. I can't even open the old workspace. It's going to be way different. So I don't know. Maybe at some point I might make a tutorial about how to use this program with Swift, but it's way different. I would recommend, better yet, just using Xcode. And while we're at it, let's Google something really quick. See which iPad is the one that uses it. What iPad models can run Xcode for app development? This is 2 years old. Response. Playground programs. iPad is slightly different. I think the new ones can run it though. This is an old response. Here. Oh, Swift Playgrounds. How old is this response? This is from 2021. I bought an iPad Pro to replace my computer, and it misses a lot of. A bit too early for. This is from what, 2023. Oh, so I guess you can't run it on the iPad directly. You can run Playgrounds, but you can't run the actual IDE. I download. You can Xcode iPadOS. Download it. You can run that one Xcode from. Let's see. And in here really quick, I want to see something. This is a different place where you can download the IDEs from, but you need to have like an Apple development account to do that. It's a little bit different from downloading it on the App Store. That's a good question, Juan. I'm not sure, dude. I'm not really not sure. When I search Xcode in App Store, all that pops up is app development by developer tools. That's on their phone, Pyro, or on an iPad. It might be the case that on the iPad you can only use Playgrounds. With Playgrounds is great, but where is Xcode for iPad? Let's see what this guy has to say. This was what, 2 weeks ago.
Build and publish apps to the app.
Let's see what this guy has to
So
say.
Swift Playgrounds 4 was released like 3 years ago. And it was the first time that Apple allowed us to build and publish apps to the App Store from an iPad. Now, I thought at the time that this was a significant indication from Apple that they were working towards bringing professional workflows to this device. I wanted to take a look and a deeper dive and just a discussion around Swift Playgrounds as it stands in 2025. Swift Playgrounds is a great entry into Swift and Swift UI in particular. It is a good product, and I think Apple knows.
Because I was under the impression that you could use Xcode on the iPad Pro, but that was only because I knew that you could use the Playgrounds on the iPad Pro. So it looks like they haven't migrated Xcode over there, which is kind of stupid because there's tons of other very powerful programs on the iPad Pro. You can use Photoshop, Illustrator, all the major Adobe suites. So I don't see why they've been dragging their feet. Let's watch the rest of this video.
With Swift Playgrounds is at that early developer stage, piquing curiosity, and in the university school setting, right? They have Swift Playgrounds Challenge every year where they have school-aged students submit apps through the Swift Playgrounds app to be considered by Apple in this contest. And winners from this contest are invited to WWDC, which is a huge honor for those developers and a huge inspiration to other young developers out there who would love to have that experience, right? Building apps in Swift Playgrounds has its place. And I think it's important to keep in mind that Apple wants Swift Playgrounds to be a lightweight, easy to use, easily accessible app for that purpose, which is fine. That's fine. That's understandable, and I understand why over the last few years Swift Playgrounds really has kind of stagnated. We haven't seen any advancements. We haven't seen Apple bring any more capabilities to it. You still can't build an app that can do background refresh.
By the way, I'll say this while I have you guys on here. One of the biggest obstacles to being a mobile developer for iOS is Apple. Apple does They do a lot of stuff we don't understand. It's kind of like, think of Apple as like the god, and you're just a normal human. Like, it does stuff that's beyond our comprehension. Why they do it, why they will choose to progress in one area and not progress in another. I think that them not having Xcode, like the actual real Xcode on the iPad, is a big misstep. But who knows? Who knows what their genius engineers over there are fucking planning?
You can't add Game Center integration. You can't add WeatherKit apps. You can't add the most common way to monetize an app, which is in-app purchases or subscriptions. All of these things cannot be done on Swift Playgrounds. And somewhat frustratingly, you can't really take a Swift Playgrounds project and with one click convert it into an Xcode project to add those capabilities later. You have to copy each file one by one into a new Xcode project if you really want to bring that prototype from your prototype playground stage into an Xcode project. It just should be
DSM, but sometimes they trip. Sometimes they be tripping, bro. They come up with the most ridiculous things sometimes. Or like recently, the other thing is when you're a developer and you write code that has to be published on the App Store, they will come up with the craziest rules and just enforce them randomly. And it's very hard to understand like what their thought process is behind it. Like recently, they added this new privacy feature where every single app has to declare what privacy requirements it needs from the user. And I mean, they did give us a heads up that it was going to be due in like 6 months, but the way it rolled out was like super, super confusing.
You know, Apple makes both of these things. There should be a conversion kit to convert a Swift Playgrounds project into an Xcode project. That, I digress. Swift Playgrounds serves its purpose, and I think it's still a good app if you were just starting out or if you just want to tinker with Swift or Swift UI. That brings me to the next question. Where is Xcode for the iPad? Because we have recently seen that Apple does want to bring professional workflows to this device. They've released Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro. There are other two professional apps on the iPad recently, but they have not brought Xcode. So why? Why haven't they brought it? Because, you know, the iPad, it has the same internals basically as a computer, right? From a technical standpoint, the iPad should be able to run Xcode, no problem. So then why haven't they done this? Why can't they give us Xcode on the iPad? And I think there's two real things that I hear commonly in the forums that I read and the internet about why this hasn't happened. First one is really people think that it will cannibalize the Mac sales because
it probably will. It probably would. I'm gonna keep it a buck. If I could get an iPad Pro that can code Xcode, why the hell would I have a fucking MacBook? So I guess it is right. So I would agree with that statement too.
Programmers all are buying Macs for Xcode, and while I get that point, I don't think it's the reason. Because even myself, who is a hobbyist developer, I would still have a Mac.
By the way, guys, don't be a hobbyist developer. Don't be a hobbyist developer. I meet these hobbyist developers all the time, and they're like working at McDonald's, putting their fries in the bag. And it's like, what are you doing, dude? What the hell are you doing? Why are you learning how to code, writing your own apps, and still working at McDonald's? So guys, don't be a hobbyist. Please don't be a hobbyist.
I would 100%.
We're doing this to make money. Get your supercar. You fucking working for free.
I think it would be useful to have it as a secondary device to be able to seamlessly work on the same project if I want to take my iPad on an airplane or something, right? And I don't want to carry the Mac around with me. But for whatever reason, there is a group of people out there who think that there's going to be a cannibalization of Mac sales. And that's the reason Apple is just locking it behind the Mac because they want to sell more Mac.
Okay, so it looks like we went on a little bit of a tangent, but it seems like the iPad doesn't allow you to run Xcode, which is unfortunate. But what I would recommend, one, which might be cheaper than an iPad. Let's go to the Apple website really quick. Is you get a Mac. Here. Right now, the Mac Mini, or even the Mac Studio, I would feel like it would be a better decision than than an iPad even, because it only costs, look, $600. You buy one of these, you can use your existing monitor, your existing keyboard, your existing mouse, and you'll get everything you need. So, in my opinion, that would be the best move. In fact, I'm actually considering getting one of these. Here, where is it? Mac Studio. I'm considering getting one of these. Because even the MacBook Pro that I'm using right now, when I'm doing editing, when I'm doing all of the stuff I need to do, it struggles. I needed something a little bit more powerful. And I'm not going anywhere with this computer. It just stays here. So there's no reason to have a freaking laptop. So this is the next thing I'm getting. And I'll use this as my streaming development platform here in the house. And it's still pretty cheap. It's still pretty cheap. There's no reason to have a MacBook Pro. Anyways, let me go back to the book. Hello World. So there's a tradition, guys. There's a tradition in app development of making your first program called a Hello World. I don't think any of you guys probably have. Does anybody in the chat have the IDE Xcode downloaded to their computer yet? Juan says, you almost made me buy a iPad today. You can probably get an M1, M2 MacBook for not too crazy prices. I have a MacBook Pro that I gave to my girlfriend. I might take it back. Oh, that's dirty. That's dirty. Oh, he said he's going to take it back. The thing is, usually with app development, the first thing we always do is Hello World. It's a simple program. So I will show you guys really quick how to do it. And when you guys get your own computers or your setup, or if you do it on the playgrounds, it's going to be simple. It's usually the first thing they make you do. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to create a new one. So we're going to make a variable called Hello World. Hello my world. We'll just give it a different name. We'll assign something called a string, which is just plain text. Hello world. Okay. And then we're going to print it out. Print. Hello world. Right? And let's go ahead and run this. And then you'll see down here in the console, it will show us the text. Here it goes. Computer might shit itself though. Like I said, this computer, it's a powerful computer, but it's just too many. I have OBS running. I have a bunch of things running at the same time. Look how long it's taking. Damn, it's taking forever. I want to run this because I also want to show you guys what that optional is before we get into the meat and potatoes. Damn, it's taking forever. Come on. I'm asking you to do one simple, tiny thing. This is crazy. Oh, Maxis, why'd you get banned? You got banned on Kick? Damn, this is taking forever. You see what I mean, though? Guys, this computer has, I think, 16 gigabytes of RAM, a terabyte hard drive. It's the last generation of the Intel MacBook Pros. It should be fucking kicking this shit out fast as hell, but unfortunately, with OBS open and the camera and the capture card and all that stuff going on, it slows the computer so much that the computer is like struggling to process a simple, this is just one line of text. All it's supposed to do is print out hello world here, and it's like taking forever. We'll give this a moment. We'll go back to the text and we'll just keep reading, and we'll see if this ever fucking loads. Ridiculous. Okay, hello world. When starting out a new programming language, it's a time-honored tradition to build a hello world app, the simplest program you can write in any language. All this program does is print out hello world to the screen. Swift code is written in plain text files with a .swift file extension. Each line in the file represents a statement, and the program is made up of one or more statements. These are the instructions you wish your app to run. Generally, code is executed starting at the top of the file and working its way to the bottom of the file. As you'll learn, you can control whether specific sections of code are executed using control flow statements, if, else, how many times they're executed using a loop, for, in, while, and how to use data that can be passed to different statements. Some programs are made up of millions of statements spread across thousands and thousands of files. The compiler makes the code executable by combining all the files into a program. But for now, let's keep it simple. In Swift, the default file is called the main.swift. Any Swift code included in the main.swift file will be executed from top to bottom. So how would you write hello world in app in Swift? Print hello world. Okay, you see what he did here? Also, he didn't use a variable. Did this even load? It's still going. So you see, I created a variable and I assigned the text to that variable. But alternatively, you can also do this. You can just do it directly. Now it's lagging. And this will also result in the same thing. Whatever text you put in the quotation marks will be printed out. Think of a variable as a container. That's the easiest way to think about it, a container. Yo, what's Timothy? Thank you for joining the stream, bro. What's up? Oh, DSM, yes. The M series chips are way better. That's why I said I'm going to buy a Mac Studio. I'm going to buy a Mac Studio because these Intel computers, look, let's look at my stats. The Intel computers are good, but they're not as good as the new M chip computers. So this is what? A processor. 2.3 gigahertz, 8-core Intel Core i9. It has a dedicated graphic card, AMD Radeon Pro 5500M, 4 gigabytes, dedicated RAM. Intel UHD, this is internal. Integrated graphics card. 630, 1536 megabytes. Memory, it's a 16 gigabyte computer, right? DDR4 RAM type. Running the latest version of Mac OS. And it's struggling. You're seeing how long it's taking me to even do this tiny thing. It's literally taking forever to load. Oh yeah, I got the Timothy. I got that new video from Meet Cannon. Look, after this coding session, I have a playlist already set up for you guys. We got the David Dobrik Meet Cannon video. We have Sneeko. We have Gadget. We have Tommy G. We have Reason TV. We have Philion, and we have a Bradley Martin Raw Talk in the queue. Okay. Error executed. This is because my computer sucks. We'll try this one more time. If it will run it now. There we go. See, okay, so you guys see the console? Hello world, my name is Scott. Now you can do something else too. We can do this. This is just a string interpolation. Let's welcome username Scott. And then we'll just add it here. Let's welcome username. And now it should say, hello world, let's welcome Scott. So let's run it again. I don't know why it takes so long to run, but you can see the output over here too. Hello world, let's welcome Scott. I have no idea why the terminal is taking so long to process. Lol says, Lord Scott. we can add another value here. Var title. And let's add some titles up here. Let King of Universe okay, and then we can assign a variable to a variable, and then we can add it to the string. Just copy it. Usually you don't need to actually go and copy like that. It will auto-populate, but my computer's acting weird. It's lagging. Okay. We'll run it again. So here you can see let's expand this so we can see the text. Here you can see a few things. We use the keyword. These pink letters, pink words are called keywords. These Timothy, sorry guys, I'm jumping back for Timothy. We streamed the car show earlier. Anyways, these pink words are called keywords. So let is when it's a constant. A constant means that this value can never change. Once it's assigned, we can't update it or change it in any way. A var, it means stands for variable. It's a container where we're able to add new things or change the values. Now you can see that I assigned this constant, King of Universe, to this variable title. And then in here, I should have done this. In here, we'll call title. And it will be the same thing. It will still have the same output. So these are all called strings, by the way. Plain text is a string. There's multiple different types. There's strings, which are plain text. There's ints, which are integers, which are numbers. And the numbers can be divided into many different types. So we have like doubles, floats. Doubles are just integers that have a decimal point. And floats are basically just doubles, but floats can have many more numbers. Like it can be like a long ass number like that. You have booleans, which are true or false statements. It can be true or false. But we're going to go into the chapter right now and it will explain more of this in detail. And my computer is still shitting itself because this should have popped up in the console down here, not just on the side. The other thing is, I don't know if we went over Xcode basics in this session. Last session we did. But basically, this left-hand side is the project navigator. It will show you all the files in your project. It will show you the source control if you're using Git, which is like a thing that keeps track of the history of the changes you made. The bookmark. Searching, if you're searching for any keywords or code, you can type what you're searching for here and it'll pull it up. It'll pull up a list of places in your project where it's listed, and you can go straight to that spot in the code. This exclamation mark just shows you the issues. If you're building, if there's errors, they'll pop up here. And then this will show you the history. And then on the other side of the IDE, you have the project inspector, which just shows you like the stats, the details of the file you're on, like the name, where it's located in your computer, if anybody made changes and it's saved in the history, that kind of stuff. Yeah, my computer is shitting itself, and this is very simple. We literally just added some values to variables and tried to print them out in the console. And you can see the computer spinning up here. This is like our status indicator, this thing that's spinning. And you see how it says ready to continue playgrounds, and it's just spinning. Spinning the block. It's spinning the block. It's not spitting up the values down here where we want them. We want them to show up in the console so we can compare. Even though, I mean, we did get the values over here so we can kind of see it, but I kind of wanted to show it down in the console area too. Okay. And I call it a console. Most developers are going to call that a console, but they call it a terminal here. It's basically the same thing. It's just a spot where the values get printed out. So in this example, they say var str hello playground. He prints str, and then down here in the terminal console area, it says hello playground. Okay, keep going. And then, okay, here it says you can also see the results. To view results that are richer than plain text, you can see in the sidebar or debug area, which is what we're seeing here. This here. Which just kind of gives you a printout of everything that's over here. Right? Oh, one more thing. When he was talking about optionals earlier, I'll show you what an optional is. So an optional is like something like this. Var last name. Make it a string optional. Right? And let's move it up here, actually. Let's move it above the printout. Right? So now, this value, last name, has no value, right? It's just a variable that we declared. It's an empty container, basically. This question mark after the type tells the compiler that it's an empty box. We don't know if it has a value inside of it or not. So now I can put, like, over here, I can put last name. And what will happen now when we print this out, it's going to say Scott, and it's going to say optional last name. And it's going to have no value because we never assigned the value to it, right? Let's go. So it says Scott nil. So to avoid having this nil, what we can do is we'll assign a default value of blank. And now when it prints out this statement, it's just going to say Scott with nothing behind it. See how it has just Scott now with nothing behind it? Now, this in text seems really simple, and it doesn't seem like a crazy fancy feature or something that's so amazing. But when you're writing real code with real variables, being able to create an optional like this saves a lot of time because you don't need to constantly be creating new items and deleting them, creating them, deleting them. You can make one at the very top of your file, and you could just change the value whenever you need it. And you can check to see if it has a value or not. If it has a value, then we use it. If it doesn't, then we don't. Definitely a time saver. Keep going here. So this book is kind of going deep into how to create this file, but this is very simple. When you open up Xcode, it will automatically create a playground for you. So I don't think we need to read through all of this. It's just super duper simple. Okay. So lesson 1.2. Let's go through these questions. What are the 3 primary goals of Swift? Safe, accurate, fast, expressive, right? What are the 3 primary goals? They put 4 here. Oh, you can choose multiple ones. I knew it was fast. Okay. Which of these are features of Swift that make it safe language? Type safety, error handling, optionals. No. Which of the following is a great environment for prototyping Swift code? Xcode, playgrounds. Go. What will the following code print to the console? Okay, print testing. Testing says testing 1 2 3. Just the bottom. Whatever is inside this print function is what's going to actually print out. There we go. Okay. Crazy how I got one wrong, even though I'm the one who's teaching the course. Yeah, hey, Timothy, we're going to be on in a bit. I'm going to finish this up. We've been on for an hour, 10 minutes. I'm going to go through constants, variables, and data types, and then we'll call it an afternoon. It's always good to go in small spurts when you're learning. So I don't want to overwhelm you guys, especially since you guys don't have the book yet. So lesson 1.2, constants, variables, and data types. It's just going to go over basically the stuff that I was explaining over here with the integers, the doubles, the booleans. It's going to go into more detail though, so let's go ahead and read through this. Building apps and programming in general is all about working with data. As a developer, you'll need to understand how to handle and store data using clearly defined types. In this lesson, you'll learn how constants and variables enable you to name pieces of data so they can be used later on in your program. You'll learn to define constants for values that don't change and to define variables for values that do change. You'll also learn about types, which are like blueprints for working with data. Different types can be used and stored in constants or variables. You'll learn what types are included in Swift and how Swift types can help you write better code. What you'll learn: how to represent numbers, strings, and Boolean values using native Swift data types, when to use constants and when to use variables, how to assign values to constants and variables, how to type infer helps you write clean code, how type safety helps you write safe code. And then the vocabulary obviously is booleans, constants, comments, doubles, functions, immutable, ints, lets, mutable, property, type inference, type safety, variables, and vars. So boolean, like I said, true or false. Constant is whether you can change the value or not. Comments are what we use to leave notes for other developers and ourselves so we can go back and remember what we were doing. Because remember, when you're working in a project, you'll have hundreds of thousands of files. So it's impossible for you to remember what you were doing. So we leave comments to keep track of what we were doing. Doubles is basically a number with the decimal point. Functions are like snippets of code that can be used and can accept code and perform a function. Obviously, that's what they're called, functions. Immutable means a value that can't be changed ever. Integer is just a basic number, 1 through a basic number. It's not decimals, just a solid number. Let is how constants are defined. Mutables are values that can change. A property is a variable, essentially. It's just a different name for a variable. Type inference is when the compiler can determine the type without you specifying it explicitly. When I say explicitly, like here in this variable, last name, we told the compiler what kind of variable it was here. But we can do this without telling it, but like we did here, where we just put a string without telling the compiler it's a string. The compiler can tell it's a string just by looking at it. We don't have to do username string and tell it explicitly that it's a string. Sometimes some developers will explicitly define the types so that other people, when they're looking at it, they can tell. But in reality, this is not necessary with Swift. Type safety just means that if it's a string, we can't add an integer or we'll get an error. We can't add a boolean or we'll get an error. There's other languages like JavaScript where you can do this, and it becomes very, very confusing. No problem, Pyro. I'm trying to get you guys, I want everybody to be up, bro. I want everybody that follows me to be up financially. Variable is just a container, and var is just how we declare the variable. Go to the next page. Constants and variables associate a name like age or name with the value of a particular type, like a number, 29, or a string, John. You can then use the name to refer to the value many times in your program. Once it's set, the value of a constant is immutable, which means that it cannot be changed In contrast, the value of a variable is mutable, which means that it can be changed at any time. By defining a constant or a variable, you're asking the compiler to allocate storage for the value in memory on the device that will run the program. You're also asking it to associate the constant or variable name with the assigned value so you can access the value later. Constants. When you want to name a value that won't change during the lifetime of the program, you'll use a constant. You define constants in Swift by using the let keyword. This is the keyword right here. Let, the name of the constant, and then the value. Kind of like we did over here. We have let, the keyword let, the name of the constant, king of universe, and the value, a string, plain text key of king of universe. Right? The code above creates a new constant called name and assigns the value John to the constant. If you want to access that value in later lines of code, you can use the name, which is just name, to reference the constant directly. This quick reference is especially helpful when you have one value that you use many times in a program. Let name equal John, print name. This code would print John to the console. Because name is a constant, you can't give it a new value after assigning it. For example, the following code won't compile. Let name equal John, name equals James. Yes, because this is a constant. You can't change it. Variables. DSM says Swift is my favorite programming language by far. So modern. Yeah, dude. It's like easy. It's easy. You know, I learned how to code using Visual Basic. So that's what? Basic? I learned that in high school and college. And I did a few things with that, but it wasn't as useful. And then, you know, I got the bullshit job I had, and I ended up learning Swift. And Swift, if Swift is your first language, you don't understand how easy you have it. So after I got this job at this company I work at now, I decided to go back and learn C, right? I went to go back and learn C. And I realized learning C that we have it super duper easy with Swift. Super easy. Swift is like a language for babies. Compared to C, Swift is a language for babies. Like C had like all the pointer references, no memory management. Compared to Swift, C is like fucking, it's like building a car from scratch. Whereas Swift is like playing the radio in the car. Everything is built for you. So, variables. When you want to name a value that may change during the lifetime of the app, you use a variable. You define variables using the var keyword, var age equals 29. This, right, by the way, this print is called a function. Print function. This parenthesis takes in a parameter, or yes, a parameter. The parameter is actually called an argument. Actually, it takes in an argument. The argument is the name, identifier, age, and it prints it out. When you define the function, the values are called parameters, but when you're consuming the function, they're called arguments. The code above would print out 29 to the console. Because age is a variable, you can assign a new value in later lines of code. The following code complies with no error. So you see a var age equals 29. Then they grabbed the name and they added a new value, 30, and they print this out and it will print 30 to the console. Yeah, I know. But there's really not that much math, lol. It's just they're using math as an example. But there really isn't that much math. And yeah, it does sound like trig, right? The functions. I mean, it's the same thing, though. It's basically the same concept. Because in math, when you use a function, it's the same thing. It accepts an argument, and depending on the argument that you pass into the function, you get a different output. So it's basically the same thing. The code would print 30 to the console. You assign constants and variables from other constants and variables. This functionality is useful when you want to copy a value to one or more other variables. So here you see they created a constant called default score, which is 100. Then they created two variables. Player 1 score, they assign default score to that one. Player 2 score, they assign default score to that one. So now both of these variable containers contain the value 100, right? They print them out, print out player 1 score, print out player 2 score. It's going to print out 100 for each one of those. He changed player 1 score to 200, print out player 1 score, now it's going to be 200. So you get the output 100, 100, 200. Yeah, it's when you get the hang of it though, after a while, because honestly, Lau, when you mentioned it, it's like Trig, I really didn't think about it because after a while you get used to just thinking like that, you know? After a while, like I don't even think about functions as functions, if that makes sense, because you're just so used to using them every day. And like I said, we don't use a lot of math, but the concepts are, I guess they are mathematical in nature. I mean, math is the language of logic, so I guess it makes sense. So then constant, the question here is constant or variable. It's basically asking you when you should use a constant and when you should use a variable, which is actually a simple question. Constants just mean that you're never going to change the value. Variable means the value can change. So for example, a name, a person's name, if it's for a specific person, their name will never change. So it could be a constant. But if you're using multiple users, then the name can be a variable because you will be using it for different people. But I'll read this anyway. Let's just read it anyway. Constant or variable, you just learned to use a constant when the value won't change and a variable when the value might change. But there's a nuance here that's worth learning. Even though certain values might be variables, you can represent them with a constant because they won't change during the lifetime of a single execution of the code. Imagine you're calculating information about the distance traveled on a trip. The program can be reused to track many trips over time, but it tracks one trip at a time. How would you represent the following data in your code? Starting location. This is a GPS coordinate of where you start your trip. Once you begin tracking a trip in your program, the location won't change. You'll represent the value with a constant. Destination. This GPS coordinate is where you want to arrive. Your app can be used for many destinations, so you may think this would be represented with a variable, but once your program begins tracking a trip, the destination won't change. You can represent this with a constant. Current location. The GPS coordinate of your current location will change whenever you move, so you'll represent this value with a variable. Distance traveled. How far have you traveled from your starting point? This value changes as you move. You'll represent it with another variable. Remaining distance. How far must you travel to arrive at your destination? The remaining distance changes as you move. You'll represent this value as a variable, with a variable. Constants and variables perform very similar jobs. You may think it would be easier to use variables for everything and ignore constants altogether. Technically, your code would work this way. So why should you use constants at all? If you do that, that's really sloppy code. You're going to get fired. You're going to get fired if you do that. Not going to lie. DSM says linear algebra is about as advanced as you ever need to go. Yeah, exactly, DSM. The only time it gets more advanced, I would say, is if you're working at a gaming company or you're like an architect, you're working at an architecture firm or something like that, where there's like real math, real world physics involved. But if you're just a normal developer like making apps, just basic ass apps, then you'll never need like advanced math. But at the same time, I hate telling people that because I want to scare as many people as I can away. I want to scare as many people as I can away because, you know, we don't want the market to be oversaturated. If everybody thinks programming is easy, then we'll have a bunch of programmers. I hate to say it, but I don't want to have a bunch of programmers because then there'll be people who will take the job for like low salaries and it devalues the whole industry. So I like telling people it's hard, making them scared so they don't even try. Because it's job security. Job security. Sorry, guys. I gotta update something over here. I gotta update the title of the stream on Kick. Because it has like Donald Trump something, something, something. People are asking me, like, what the hell are we doing in here? Okay. So yeah, I like telling them, yeah. I like making it seem like it's extremely complicated. When people ask me like in the street, if it's not a like if it's not a I'm not okay, if I'm trying to help somebody, I'm gonna obviously tell them, like I'll give them the insight. But if it's like a rando, like old person or some person who's like, I'm like, no. I'm like, oh yeah, it's difficult. Whatever. Because I don't want a bunch of people applying, you know? We don't want a bunch of competition in here. Yeah, software engineer. And then I also don't want to tell them the salaries because a lot of people will just try and get the job just for the salaries. When I started learning how to code, I didn't even know how much a software engineer made. And I think that's the best way to learn, to be honest. It's the best way to learn because then you're not motivated by money. Yeah, you don't have comp. They took our jobs. You're already working. Yeah, I rather you learn how to code just for the passion of learning how to code and then you figure out, oh man, I can make a lot of money doing this, than stumbling into coding for the money. Because look, you might learn how to code, you might be good at it, but you might not like it, you know? You're already working. Yeah, GH 57. I didn't go to school for software engineering. I went to school for some dumb shit, some dummy shit. Some dummy shit. I wasted a lot of money for no reason. To get a degree that got me a job making 30K. Graphic design. Graphic design and illustration. Big mistake. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't go into any of the majors that are when all your friends are going to a major because it's cool. Don't do it. Don't do what everybody's doing. But I study SE and it's weird. You know, when you study software engineering, there's like a bunch of stuff they make you learn that has nothing to do with the job. They got you doing like analytical geometry, calculus, like all this stuff that has nothing to do. Like you're never gonna use that stuff. You're never gonna use that stuff. I looked at the curriculum and it was just a bunch of crazy shit, and I'm just like, no, okay, pass, pass. I took a few computer science courses and that's it. I'm like, I'm not gonna go do fucking analytical geometry. And in your life, you're ever gonna use analytical geometry for anything. Calc based physics. It's like, yeah, I'm not trying to do like embedded systems for NASA over here. Yeah, freelancing works. Freelancing works. Freelancing works, but there's a lot of competition. There's a lot. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not trying to sound offensive or be offensive or say anything insensitive, but the problem with the freelancing is there's a lot of people in like India and China on these freelancing websites that will do the job for like $10. They'll do a job that's worth $10,000 for $100. So now, will they do it good? Probably not. Will it be easy to fucking go back and debug? Probably not. A company that hires those guys, will they regret it and then have to start their project all over again when they try to do an updated version? Probably. But it's very hard to explain that to a company when you're charging them $20,000 and some Indian guy is charging them $200. Yeah, I did freelancing. I did freelancing programming and I did freelancing graphic design. But I just don't think it's worth it. I mean, it depends on how much free time you have and how willing you are to have some asshole yelling at you about their vision. Like, okay, perfect example. Most of you guys are in here because you guys watch my content. Yeah, GHH5. Just use Fiverr or Upwork. I don't know if you ever used Upwork or Fiverr, but those websites have tons and tons and tons of freelancing opportunities. what I was gonna say is that most of you guys are in here from Fuzi, right? Fuzi, Neon, those kind of clowns. So imagine you are a freelancer, right? And you get a guy like Fuzi hitting you up, and he has some stupid, outrageous idea that's not practical. That's what I'm talking about. You'll literally have guys as delusional as Fuzi hiring you, telling you, "Oh, I want this application that plays my music, and it keeps track of the user's I what is it look at? You keep track of where the user's eyes are on the screen, and if they look away from the screen, it stops my music, and it also interprets their facial expressions and then rates my songs on Spotify." And you'll be like, "What the fuck is this guy talking about? What the hell is this guy talking about?" And he'll be like, they'll have like crazy demands, and the thing is, the person is paying you, so it's hard for you to like push back and say that's a stupid idea or that doesn't make sense, because they're gonna get upset. They think that their idea is like some innovative, fucking grandiose idea. They're gonna come up with the next Facebook, right? They're gonna come up with the next Instagram. Like, oh, this is a genius idea. You just don't understand the concept, and you'll end up like just dealing with fucking people that are deranged and have ridiculous ideas that are obviously not gonna work. So that's why I say, like, freelancing, in my opinion, yes, you can make a lot of money, but you have to have a thick skin. And I don't know. I rather work for a company. In a company, everything is really established. There's still crazy people. Don't get me wrong. Like our project owner right now is constantly coming with these dumb ideas that don't work. But at least there's other people to shut them down. You know, it's not just one-on-one. Yeah, you have HR. Exactly. Exactly. You have HR protecting you, and you have other coworkers, and at least if the person is crazy, like the person who's making the decisions is out of their fucking mind, you have like 50 other people that are gonna side with you and be like, "No, this guy, that's wrong. It's not gonna work." Da 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 da. Whereas freelancing is just it's one-on-one. You and a fucking asshole, and that asshole is telling you what they want, and they might want something crazy. GHH575V. I'm like, every single time I say your name, I say it wrong. I don't know, because I haven't been looking for a job, to be honest. It's probably a little bit difficult because there's been some layoffs at some of the major companies. But these jobs are pretty easy to pick up, to be honest. After I learned how to code, it took me 2 months to get a job. And it wasn't even like me constantly looking, it was me casually looking. So I don't think it's that hard. Lal says, I also want to legally marry their wives. Right? Right? They'll have some sort of request that's just ridiculous. Like, dude, the app can't even do that. The application can't, your phone can't even do that. And they'll get upset. You'll be arguing with them and shit. They'll be calling you in the middle of the night and shit. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. I learned Swift. How much of I learned Swift. That was the language I learned first. Yeah, only Swift. I learned Swift, and I got a job as a mobile developer. And once I got a job, I did learn other languages. I learned Objective-C, and I learned C. And I know Java. And I know JavaScript too, and HTML and CSS. But all those other ones I just mentioned to you, I learned them on my own time, just to fuck around and do other shit. Oh, GHH57. 57. Oh my god. GHH5V. 100%. Law says I prefer binary. Look, the stuff they're teaching you in college is bullshit. I'm just gonna keep it a buck. It's bullshit. In fact, almost every developer that I've worked with that has a college degree, they always seem lost in the sauce. Look, you'd be better off learning how to be a hacker. Because honestly, I feel like software engineering is just about solving problems and using logic and troubleshooting. And being a hacker would benefit you more than learning a bunch of languages. Like every semester, it's 5 languages, and we don't even master them. We just know the basics. Yeah, that's dumb as hell. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. The most important thing is to learn one language and become proficient at it. Once you learn one language, then it's easy to translate to any other language. Like I learned Swift proficiently, like I mastered it. And then if I see code in a different language, I can kind of like, find the relative terms and translate it over and understand what I'm seeing. But the most important thing is to learn the language until you're proficient at it. You don't want to get in a situation where you're learning tech stack after tech stack after tech stack after tech stack for no reason. It's the same thing as people who take tutorials and they just take a bunch of tutorials and they get stuck in tutorial purgatory where they never actually learn how to code. They just keep learning tutorials. Just buy a Flipper Zero. Oh, wow. Did you see that? Did you see the guy that was on the podcast talking about being a hacker? And he literally just had a flipper. Ridiculous. Yeah, you got to keep it simple. But the crazy thing is I meet these developers. I worked with developers that overcomplicate everything too. Like we're in a meeting and the meeting is like it's supposed to be a 5-minute meeting and they'll make the meeting a 2-hour meeting because they're overcomplicating everything. Coding is simple. Whatever problem you have, tear it down to its fucking core and then work from the core up. There's no reason to make it super duper complicated. I look, you guys see me. I'm streaming every single day for hours and hours and hours and hours, and I still get all my work done. And there's guys on my team who they're working 24/7. Like I look at them, I can see they're working, and it takes them forever to do anything. They have no free time, and they went to college for this shit. It's because they don't have troubleshooting skills. They like overcomplicate everything. They'll have a problem to solve, like a task, and they'll make like a whole diagram. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you making a diagram? And they're like, I'm just making this diagram. I'm just making this diagram to understand the concept of the problem before I start working on it. Because I thought it would be easier if I have an outline of the steps that I'm going to follow in order to resolve the problem. That's why I'm building this outline really quick. This graph is going to help me solve the problem before I start. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? The amount of time you're using to make that fucking graph is the amount of time it would take you to solve the goddamn problem. And that's the problem with guys that went to college. The guys that went to college, they overanalyze every single fucking thing. They'll have a problem. Guys, there's this, right now we have this dice. We have this dice issue, guys. And the dice it's a dice that goes from 1 to 6. And it's white with black. And we want to know if we should make the red, the indicator for number 1 and number 6 red or black. So I'm not sure about this, guys. So we're going to have to make a meeting about it. Let's schedule a meeting for 2 p.m. where we're going to go over the dice colors. And it's like, what are you fucking talking about? And then they'll have a meeting, and the meeting will spiral out of control. Like, well, the dice started out as a 6-sided dice, but maybe we should make it a 20-sided dice. Like, what game are we gonna be playing with this? Is it Dungeons and Dragons or is it Monopoly? Because if it's Monopoly, maybe we should have 1 dice. But if it's Dungeons and Dragons, we should have a 20-sided dice. And it's like, and I'm just sitting there like listening to them talk. And I'm adding up the people in the meeting, and I'm just like, this meeting is costing us like literally $1 million fucking dollars. Like we have seven people on here. Every single person on his call makes $200,000 a year, and we're just sitting here talking about the size of a dice. Like, you guys are fucking stupid. And like, honestly, half the time I don't say anything. When I do butt in, it's usually I'm the most negative one. I'm just like, guys, I don't think that's gonna work because of this, and that. And then everybody like stares at me like, damn, okay, yeah, you're right. And it's like, we just wasted like 2 hours on this fucking nonsense. Neon, if he never made it on Kick. No, you know what's crazy about Neon? Neon said that his parents wanted him to be a doctor. Imagine if your doctor had been Neon. So, but anyways, guys, damn, we've been on for 1 hour, 39 minutes. We didn't get through this chapter, constants, variables, and data types. So what I'm going to do is next Sunday. Let's schedule it right now. Next Sunday at 2 p.m. because we did get through a whole section. We just didn't get through this. I wanted to do 2 sections. We only did 1. We'll get through this constants, variables, and data types next Sunday. Let me schedule it right now while we're in this call. And we'll use this other book. So I guess we can close this book. We'll use the book that I dropped in the chat and the book that's on the Discord because it's more straightforward and it's more up to date. Let's go ahead and open Studio. Let's kill Xcode because, oh, shit. No. Oh, my God. Fuck. I lost the playlist. I guarantee I lost the playlist. Let's go back.
So Swift Playgrounds.
I lost the playlist. This is ridiculous.
And it was the first time that Apple allowed.
Oh, I didn't lose the playlist. Thank goodness. Okay, let's do this the smart way. I don't know why it opened it in the same tab. New tab. I'm tired of making fucking playlists on YouTube and then losing them. Oh, lol. You'd be at work, you'd be laughing your ass off, bro. It's just dumb. You know, my ex used to work with us and she'd come with the stupidest ideas. I'd be shooting those shits down. It was funny. It was actually pretty funny. Okay. Let's schedule here. Go live. We'll schedule this for Sunday at 2 again. Is 2 p.m. a good time? Reuse settings. Let's change the names to constants, variables, and data types. Next. It's going to be next Sunday. That's February the 2nd, right? 2 p.m. Here we go. That charge up. Okay. Okay, so if you guys want, you can I'll drop the link to that stream in the chat. If you want to set your notifications so that it lets you know when or reminds you. That's the next session. Okay, guys. Looks like we at least pulled off the beginning. Yeah, lol. Shit. When you have a Windows computer, it becomes very. I wouldn't be able to walk you through it because I don't know. I've never used a Windows computer. I used a Windows computer like back when I was a kid. What I was gonna say is that we will take a little break. It's 3:30, and when we come back from the break, we will react to normal content. I have a playlist I want to react to. It's a little bit Meat Cannon, Sneeko, Gadget, talking about Andrew Tate, Tommy G, Reason TV, Philion, and then the 2 Bradley Martin podcasts. And I will also search for like some Fuzi news. I don't think there has been any because he hasn't streamed in like 2 days. Fuzi news, Neon, more Sneeko. Whatever streamers have done anything in the recent few days will also react to that stuff. So let me schedule that too. Right now it's 3:30. I'm gonna schedule it for 4. Let's schedule that stream for 4. Schedule stream. This one. We'll give it the same name as the one that we did a few days ago. Oop. Whoop. All right, you guys can't see the screen. Scheduling this for 4 p.m. today. Let's make it 4:30 because I need to eat something and cook a little bit. 4:30 p.m. Boom. Okay. And let's go back out. Look to the list. Lal says G1. This is G1 energy, right? I got G1 energy right now, guys. Session at 4:30 p.m. EST today. Reaction content. Drop that in the chat. Okay, that's annoying. Oh, it's because it won't copy the link. Here, sorry. I have a life and responsibility, G1. I'm sitting down too, by the way. Sitting down is G1 energy, remember? You're supposed to be standing up and on cocaine the whole time. That's G7. Sitting down, relaxing, taking your time, G1, G1. We don't want G1 around here. We want G1 over here. So I'm gonna be back, guys, at 4:30. Yes, Great Goblin. I'm gonna be back in like at 4:30. We'll react to the content in the Discord. Let's see what we have. Okay, this is oh, okay. I think we saw this. Oh, the lawsuit. Fuzi reveals he could have a lawsuit. Is this the clip? We'll go through this when we get back. Which one is this? Oh, I remember this lady who thought she was black. That was cringe as hell too. Where do we start from? Okay, we reacted to this yesterday. We reacted to this yesterday. We didn't react to this. So from here down. So we're going to react to what's in the Discord. Hopefully you don't get copyrighted. And then we'll go through the playlist I have on YouTube. And then we'll check out Fuzi, see if there's anything new, and Neon, and we'll go from there. So I'll catch you guys in like, what, an hour? An hour. Actually, it's 55 minutes. I'll catch you guys in 55 minutes, okay? Sound good, guys? Oh, watch it on the side? Okay. I was about to watch it on stream, so I was gonna get cooked. Okay, guys. I'll catch you guys in 55 minutes. Be right back, guys.